Here is a message that must be shared by the majority to have an impact and be able to change our destiny. We live in a time when manipulation has become commonplace to such an extent that it is impossible to distinguish between truth and false. It is so easy to change a person's opinion without even noticing it. Our source of information becomes corrupted when the people behind the choice and how to bring what becomes our beliefs are in the same group as those who write our laws, and worse still, who control authority and finance. You think the government belongs to us? Explain why we owe more money than we can pay, or simply explain the reason that started this debt we never accepted. Why give control of finances to a private bank? What is our advantage in doing this? What would be the difference today if we refused? Let us try to clarify the situation a bit. This graph, produced by the Fraser Institute, illustrates the trajectory of Canada's federal debt, from Confederation to 2015. Obviously something went wrong in 1974. What happened in 1974? Well, Pierre Elliott Trudeau has delegated the monetary sovereignty of Canada to a group of international private bankers. Between the creation of the Central Bank of Canada in 1938 and the year 1974, the Canadian government borrowed from its own central bank. The debt was virtually irrelevant, since the government owns the bank. But since 1974, Canada has borrowed from international private bankers. That year, the Basel Committee was created by the governors of the Group of 10 central banks, G10, including the Governor of the Bank of Canada, Gerald Bouy. Pierre Elliott Trudeau and his then Minister of Finance, John Turner, delegated Canada's monetary sovereignty to this group of foreign bankers, the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision, hosted by the Bank for International Settlements, a group that discourages interest-free borrowing by central banks to encourage interest-bearing borrowing from private creditors. The difference between a private bank and a public bank like that of Canada is that the Central Bank of Public Property returns payments on interest to the government, and therefore to the people. On the other hand, a private bank siphons the interest in its own private capital account. The private bank reinvested this profit by again charging interest, thus siphoning progressively the money of the productive economy, and dispossessing the people and the government. Over a period of 108 years, 1867 to 1974, the debt accumulated by Canada is represented by a flat line. But since the treason of the Trudeau government in 1974, the debt has grown exponentially. Today, it has exceeded $630 billion. A large portion of this debt consists of interest owed to private bankers. According to the Fraser Institute, Canadian governments disbursed approximately $61.7 billion in interest payments in 2013 to 2014. A huge amount, which exceeds expenditures in the country's primary and secondary education system, $61 billion. In 2011 to 2012. From Confederation to 1974, Canada became involved in 2 world wars, has gone through a major depression, built large infrastructure such as the St. Lawrence Seaway, Trans-Canada Highway, international airports, Canadian national railways, and implemented social protection programs such as family allowances, the old age security pension, the Canada Pension Plan, and the universal health care system. All this, with a debt of only $21.6 billion. Today, the federal debt exceeds $630 billion, while the government has been cutting back services for years. Our infrastructure is poorly maintained, and others such as Canadian National, Petro-Canada and Air Canada, have been privatized. Meanwhile, the 6 major Canadian chartered banks continue to earn enormous profits, nearly $35 billion for the year 2015. He have left a poisoned gift, and now we have the son who lived a life of prince, since it is easy to believe that only a small group of people have been able to take advantage of this situation. What a subject of diversion had succeeded in passing this fine betrayal. still simply an illusion when we know that there are only 3 countries in the world that are not part of the private banking system. Little information. In 2001, 7 countries was not on the hold of banks, and I let you guess which ones are no longer part of it. The solution is simple, that the government stop borrowing from private banks and begin borrowing, virtually without interest, from the Bank of Canada. A bankruptcy is less fearful than the future that banks reserve us. So the solution to the debt problem is not to increase taxes, cut into services offered, or sell our public goods. The solution is to reduce the debt through the use of the Bank of Canada, a public bank, whose shareholders are the Canadian population, and returning payments on interest, if any, charged to the cases the public. Can the son overthrow the curse that the father has transmitted to us, where we are going to have to do it on our own? The time for change has come. It begins with the recovery of our goods and resources, not conquering and dominating. Poverty continues to increase, and the main reason is so simple to resolve that they impose distractions large enough to demotivate us. Unfortunately for them, we do not forget, and we are more motivated than ever. Expect us,